Hey there, welcome to Synth Seeker. My name is Luke. It is day 6 of January the 6th. And today we're going to continue what we were doing on day 5. We're going to do some synth pop. We're going to push it towards Berlin School a little bit. We're going to use some Berlin School techniques, one called note phasing, to sort of generate an endless or nearly endless, or endless to your ear, sort of bed of arpeggiation. Plucks, and then we're going to put a rhythm track under it and then a bass line on it. And the bass line is going to kind of drive the melody, believe it or not. And what will happen is what grows out of the arpeggiation will be these little micro melodies that, may or may not be pleasing. We'll see how it goes. Sometimes it takes a little tweaking to get it to where we want it. Anyway, so what are we using today? Today we're using the Waldorf Iridium. We're using the Waldorf Blofeld. We're all about Waldorf today. And we're using the Nord Wave 2. And we're also using the Minimoog Model D, as well as a rhythm track, because we're doing it in 6/8. Yesterday, we were working in 7/8, and we were in G Mixolydian. Today, we're going to do 6/8 in G Mixolydian. And the reason I'm going to do that is I'm keeping these two pieces from yesterday and today in the same key. I'm going to use them together in the coming months after January, and we're going to move between 6/8 and 7/8 in that song. Let's get started. So, first thing we're going to do is we're going to lay down a little track of plucks on this Iridium. It sounds like, just a reminder, G Mixolydian sounds like this. Yeah, it's very close to major. The 7th is down a half step. But basically, I've got this pluck that responds pretty well to velocity. All right, I've got a little delay on it. All right, and I'll just go through the patches real quick. The Blofeld is a similar but softer. And the Wave 2 is doing another pluck. A little sharper pluck, a little phasing going on there, okay? The modulation effect. All right, so let's start with our Iridium. I'm going to lay down 8-bar tracks, and let's get going. All right, so that's our pattern. We're going to move over to the Blofeld, and we're not even going to wait for it to come around. We're just going to start, because you'll see we're going to manipulate this a bit. So start anywhere. All right, now let's move to the Wave 2. We'll lay down another track, another 8 bars. I'm leaving a lot of space. I'm doing little micro phrases. All right, so we've got these patches. All right, so I'm going to stop them. So I've laid down 3 patterns, okay? I've laid down this this Wave 2 pattern. Note the gaps inside it, right? We've got some playing in a gap, and playing in a little gap, and playing in a little gap. You could think of this as a phrase. But then there's a gap here. We've got some playing, and we've got a gap, right? And it's all in key, right? Now, if we look at the Blofeld one, right? Let's see. Let's actually tell it what key we're in. We want to use the scale. We're in G Mixolydian. There we go. So this pattern has a big gap at the beginning, then a little note phrase here, then a gap, then a sort of sparse note phrase, then we've got a little run, and then a gap, and then quarter note runs, okay? Or a quarter note sort of note accents there. And then in our Wave 2, right? Same kind of idea. We've got some work, and then space, then work, and a little space, a little micro space, a little group of 3, a group of 3, a group of 3, then some space, then a little run, and then space, okay? Now what we're going to do is a technique called note phasing. These are all 8-bar patterns. Well, what we're going to do, we're going to take, we'll take this wave, the wave 2 one, and we're going to shorten it from 8 bars to 7. All right. And then we're going to take this Blofeld pattern and we're going to shorten it as well. We're going to shorten it. We will shorten it there, and we'll take the beginning off as well, because you can change the start point as well. So we're going to start the start point. So this is a 6-bar pattern now. All right. This wave 2 is a 7-bar pattern. This Iridium is an 8-bar pattern. Okay. Now, what that means is they're all going to start at the same time, but they're going to loop at different times. They're not going to loop in sync. And because they're just sort of these light, sparse arpeggiations across the sort of key, it's going to sound interesting. Let me show you. So there's all our notes the first time around. And when we get to the end of the 8th bar, right? That Iridium pattern is 8 bars long, and so it's sort of the master pattern. But the wave and the Blofeld patterns are shifting, and they're getting further and further away from each other and away from the Iridium pattern. And they're going to do that over time, and then they're going to get closer and come back together again. All right? So I have a video out there called Be a Berlin School Time Lord, and it's about note phasing. It's about this technique. There's different ways to do this. If you're doing this in hardware, you can do it by changing the endpoint or the start point of your sequences. If you can have different start and end points for each sequence that your sequencer supports. If you only have a one-track sequencer, this isn't going to work for you. You need at least 2 sequencers to do this. But in hardware or modular or in your DAW, if you've got 2 sequencers that can control 2 voices, you have them play in the same key or play the same chord progression, but you have them loop at different rates, have different endpoints or different start points or a bit of both. So now that we've got that pattern there, that doesn't really lend us to a melody. It doesn't sort of make a melody. Maybe there's a few micro melodies in there, right? But we're going to use a bass line. If I pull up this Model D, this Model D is going to play octaves. All right. So I'm going to start the rhythm track playing. It's going to play over the arpeggiation that are note phasing, and then I'm going to lay down a bass track. Just a quick, we're going to make it 16 bars because I want to do a bass line that has one sort of an A part and then a B part. Let me record this real quick. Okay, so what have we done here today? So we've got 3 plucks, okay? We laid down 3 8-bar patterns that were sparse. They had, they were working in the key. And they had timbre modulation, right? We changed based on velocity. Some notes were sharp, some notes were soft, but we played some notes. We didn't play them too many. We didn't gent it, right? We left some space. And we did that in all 3 patterns, and we left space in different places. And then we took those and we phased them in time. We have one 8-bar pattern, one 6-bar pattern, and one 7-bar pattern. And we let those play, and as they loop, they're going to sound interesting. They're going to evolve over time. But they're not great at, generating a melody. Maybe little micro melodies, and you can pull those out when you're sort of doing the production. Then we put a rhythm part on it and a bass part. And the bass part's doing these octaves. And we played the bass part, thinking in 6/8 time. So we're going bum, 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 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, almost like a waltz, 1, 2, 3. And we tied our bass line to that sort of rhythmic pattern, which gave us this sort of galloping gait, right? You're at sea or you're riding a horse or something like that. And it's really compelling. So it's a lot of fun to do. I'm going to take this and I'm going to mix it with last week, with yesterday. God, it feels like a week ago. With January 5th 7/8 pattern in this key, and I'm going to play with that with a song later this year. Who knows? Maybe January. May, June, July. Who knows? But really, that's it. So the takeaway here today is your patterns can be sparse. Leave some space in them. And they also don't all have to be the same length. And then you can have that make a bed and then have your bass line sort of force a harmonic pattern, a chord progression, an implied melody. Okay. You could still put a melody over this as well, but that's for another day. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow. I'll bring this back and I'll put a melody over it. No promises though. So, hey, thanks for spending time with me on this January 6th. And as always, you've been watching Synth Seeker. Have a great day.